Morning. Why don't I like flags? Well, I don't dislike flags, but I wouldn't be inclined to hold a flag and wave it, and I wouldn't be drawn to walking beneath a flag. Partly because they sort of remind me of my own naivety in terms of politics back at the beginning of the Yes movement, where the flag began to symbolise for me the distinct difference between Scotland and England. This idea, which is a myth, that Scotland is an altogether different moral composition from our southern counterparts. In some instances, you might be able to argue that, but ultimately, it's untrue. The flag symbolises for me that propensity within me for a willful delusion, comforting story where the flag becomes almost a metaphor for how I'm willing to divorce Scotland from all of the morally ambiguous history that I claim the United Kingdom is steeped in. Even though there's a Scottish flag in the Union Jack, which isn't a metaphor but is very literal. So the flag symbolises the fact that there are lots of half-truths out there about my country and my history, and it also symbolises the sort of groupthink aspect of it. Not everyone who waves a flag obviously believes Scotland is a country of moral fortitude, but there is a section of the Yes movement that does think Scotland is an oppressed class of people, as I did, and that still very much exists in that September 19th place where this is daily trench warfare. Personally, I've moved beyond that. One, because emotionally it's not sustainable, assuming that level of hostility around you. You know, where every single story that comes out of the mainstream media needs to be discarded, and I'm just taking in the same few blogs and a couple of newspapers, and this constitutes my worldview. I can't go on like that. One, it's very tiring, and two, it requires a tremendous amount of assumption, which sometimes would push me out of alignment with reality. The flag symbolises how some politicians actually fan those flames of irrationality. The flag symbolises for me how the politicians that are claiming to be conducting a new form of politics are actually turning up the dial on an old form of politics full of slogans and vacuous platitudes and interestingly worded, shrewdly concocted marketing, powerful branding, in which they speak to everyone and no one at the same time, using phrases like talking up for Scotland, where all you have to be is vaguely Scottish and you feel like they're speaking directly to you, even if your interests and aspirations can't be reconciled by another group who also feel like nationalist politicians are speaking to them. The flag symbolises for me my willingness to perceive the Scottish culture as a monolith of opinion that speaks in one voice, which is always articulated by a nationalist. And I guess for me as well, the flag sort of symbolises the disillusionment that I began to feel the closer I got to the referendum, where I still felt resolutely yes, but that behind the curtain of the Yes movement, what we saw was a thematically centralised, tightly controlled campaign. A lot of the organisations that looked and felt like they were autonomous were on the receiving end of various kind of pressure, and some were openly just taking the lead from the SNP, which is fair enough, obviously, it's a campaign. But ultimately, they were structured much in the same way that organisations and institutions in the union were structured, which is, in fact, even less democratic because they were thrown together quickly. So there wasn't a lot of recourse for grievance to be expressed. There wasn't any mechanism for people to affect the organisations that were operating in the Yes movement. Now, some may argue that's just what needs to be done, but what they're arguing for is the suspension of democracy in pursuit of a political objective. Now, that's fair enough. However, when the whole case for independence is hinged on this idea of a democratic deficit, then we better pay attention to our adherence to democratic principles. And I found the Yes movement, at least some of the tentpole groups, it had a lot to answer for in that sense, and it made me realise actually I need to look a wee bit closer at this, because this Yes movement actually is not designed for power to trickle down in any way. Should we vote yes, it's about handing power over to a few community leaders or a few influential cultural figures and so on and so forth. So that's a rundown of the various reasons why flags make me wary. They are alarm bells for me. They remind me of the half-truths that I was willing to entertain in order to benefit from a feeling of being connected to a moral force. They also remind me that I need to always be checking in with myself and be honest about what my motives are and what my intentions are with independence, because I very much enjoyed feeling part of a mass collectivist action, when in reality I voted yes for lots of self-interested reasons as well, which won't surprise any of you who don't enjoy my work or the way that I carry it out. But the idea of being a bit of a bigger fish in a smaller pond was appealing to me, especially as an artist who had always been on the margins for so long. I thought maybe I'll have more of an opportunity to have a voice in a smaller country. But I very much told myself that was motivated by my want to see everyone doing well, and I guess there was a part of that also, but really there was lots of self-interest operating in the Yes movement, but it was all happening simultaneously. So self-interested people acting simultaneously towards a shared objective gives the impression that there's conscious collectivism going on, which is perhaps where the Yes movement got its pseudo-socialism, or sexy socialism as some people call it, sort of feel. Those are some reasons why I'm not into the flags. Do you mind flags? Do you see them as being problematic in some way? I saw a meme that was depicting why someone likes the Scottish flag but why they hate the UK flag, because the Scottish flag is a symbol of progressive politics and outward looking and fairness and justice, and the UK flag is a symbol of corruption and tyranny and even evil. Is this a fair-minded way to look at it? Should politicians be encouraging the waving of flags, given that all countries are steeped in a morally ambiguous history when you compare that history with the current ethical cultural norms? Is Scotland any better than the UK? We know steeped in the blood of in the blood of foreign people. Are we not steeped in the history of slavery? Did we not try imperialism and fail miserably at it? Wonder what you think. Comment below. Hope you have a nice, easy Sunday afternoon.